Hey, this is Ross Payton with Role Playing Public Radio. This is RPPR episode 163, Scum and Villainy.
Woo!
We're going to be talking about Scum and Villainy, a Forged in the Dark role-playing game out from Evil Hat. Well, it actually came out last year, but we've been playing a lot of it lately. So I wanted to talk about it and get y'all's some info on the system. We can talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, all that fun stuff. So and with me we have 3 of the players in the game. Not all of them because I only have so many microphones, but
there's it's a finite resource, microphones.
Yeah, with me, not as always, is Tom,
Woo!
Aaron,
Hey.
and Sean.
Hey.
Yep. So before we get into that, though, let's get through a little news. RPPR Tabletop Tales is going strong, and if you haven't, if you're an addict for actual plays, I can't feed you enough of them. You might want to subscribe to RPPR Tabletop Tales, where we do one campaign from beginning to end at a time. And right now, Adam Scott Glancy was ever so kind to send us a full Hollow Earth campaign, Hollow Earth Expedition campaign, and it is very pulpy, very shooting dinosaurs, shooting Nazis, shooting just bad people.
Shooting
There's
dinosaur
Zeppelins.
Nazis?
Yep, probably.
Okay.
I haven't listened to the whole thing myself, and it's a lot of fun.
Hollow Earth Nazis. I hate Hollow Earth Nazis.
And after that, David is going to be sending us some games, and we'll have a lot of, and then of course we're going to be doing a Conflict 47 wargaming campaign report experiment on Tabletop Tales. So be sure to check that out. Aaron has something he's been up to aside from our
So for the last, it's actually been over the last year. It's been sporadic in the beginning, but we have gotten more or less a schedule down. Sean and I have actually been reviving Railery off to the side as a Twitch channel. It's at Railery Podcast Streaming. You can find us at that particular address, and we've been doing
on Twitch. Twitch.tv/ that thing you just said.
Railery Podcast Streaming. So we're pretty much on the same. We are. I still do have plans to upload some of what we have already done to the YouTube channel at some point in time. I've just gotten busy, unfortunately. But we do have a full playthrough of Shadow of the Colossus, the remastered edition, underneath our belt. So that was all recorded. We've been doing like any other.
We just wrapped up Spider-Man.
Yeah, we did wrap up Spider-Man.
I think it's 2 for some
Yeah, no, it got
the good one.
The good
one that just came out.
But the Spider-Man PS4 game, we have wrapped that up. I will try to import them as much as I can from that as possible, because we did lose a couple of clips, unfortunately, due to just time. I know, lost to the internet, but you kind of get the gist of it. It is the adventures of, in our case, the emissary of hell, Spider-Man. But we're currently doing that. I am making plans to go ahead and do days outside of our normal Wednesday broadcast, where it could be Ross or a couple other people through Discord trying to get us on for maybe some local co-op or anything, but it just depends on the scheduling, because we are seeing if we can break to the affiliate level like our friends over at BPB Games, Best Pal Brigade's game. But also, we should make the announcement here. I'm saying this is a tentative. I have my hands on Kingdom Hearts 3. You should already know my relationship with this game.
Seriously, I've been watching him vibrate in the house.
I was just going to say, due to my presence, it's not going to be the most sterling perfect review.
Like I said, I'm definitely going to get into the lore. Sean will be bringing me back to reality at any given point. This is coming with a slight preface, though, that we have been warned because of Square Enix's blocks on certain streaming sections. This might go through in some cases or not. We've heard rumors that certain scenes are being blocked. I will see how I can get around that. But if not, we will just do the best we can, and I will try to narrate that for you if at all possible. But we're really excited to be able to kind of do this. We already have actually a pretty significant follower base for just a small channel right now. If you like watching, us goof off on the games as much as you do in the live and the actual plays, feel free to come on back by, because we're really happy to be doing this. So.
All right, yeah, no, it's been fun. I've jumped in a couple times to watch.
Yeah, and for Payday, we actually had you when we were doing Payday every once in a while. That's actually something I plan on an off day too. Is that for Payday, as we know, the game has techcally ended now.
No, it's very ended. The company is in financial.
I know it is bad, but Ross has actually already done the secret ending. I've qualified for it, so that's going to be a stream night where Ross guides me through, and hopefully we won't die.
Yeah, we might try and get someone else.
Sucker that.
Well, I mean, the worst is we're killed by shadow cloakers, which are Ghost ninjas?
Yep.
I'm not sure. They have.
Oh my.
They have guns.
Man, the subspecies of ninja is incredible.
Yeah, it's going on for. Yeah, it's definitely all there. But something I would end with though is that if you have any specific game request, I have a large library of other Steam games that we'll probably be doing soon. But if you have ones that you would like maybe to send to us, that if you have a specific request that we can do, we'll give that a try.
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk Aaron into doing a non-H visual novel.
Okay, well that's cool. Be sure to. And Aaron, what is your Twitter handle? People
That's just at Aaron Karsten, AARON, CARSTEN.
Okay.
I am boring.
No, well, Aaron, that's great marketing there. But tweet it angrily at Aaron if you have problems with his raillery as streaming.
Why angrily?
I don't know, because it's the internet.
You make an assumption.
We'll say with tremendous fervor.
And then finally, speaking of social media, I am now using Instagram. I set up my account years ago, but now because of PAX South, I've actually decided to start using it. So I'm taking photos and posting them. I am ross.payton on Instagram. Feel free to follow me, look at my photos.
Here's a hint. He was mostly
videos.
Here's a hint. He was mostly doing gamer fuel stuff that I told him not to do.
I only did like one of those. But yeah. There's a photo. You could actually see me. I took a photo in the Resident Evil 2 car at PAX South.
Yep.
It was very neat.
So you can, if you have no idea what kind of stud muffin Ross is in real life, check out the photos of him.
Tom, thanks for being my wingman.
I got you, man. I got you.
All right. So that's it for the news. And so let's get on to our main topic, which is Scum and Villainy, the role-playing game. So I picked this game up at PAX South Origins last year. We finally got around running it last fall. We ran like 6 or 7 sessions of it. Plus, I've done a one-shot PAX South actually last weekend with some of the RPPR regulars and some new players. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's been really fun, and I really want to talk about this system. Why don't we just go around the table and guys, each of you just give me a little overview, like what your overall impression of the system is. So, Sean, you haven't been talking.
Oh yeah. Again, I did read Blades in the Dark a while back, and so it's the quick version.
So you can actually compare between the two.
Yeah, I know. It's a sci-fi version, but it's really heavy on the pastiche as opposed to Blades in the Dark, which is totally original. Well, no, that actually did refer to Dishonored very heavily, like stupid heavily, and a little bit of Thief. But anyhow, this one is a little more dependent on like Star Wars, and Firefly was heavily referenced, and a few other things. Dune got some strong implications on the GM side, which when you were running it, you did drop a lot of references there. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's great." I'm like, "I've read the original series. I know what you mean."
Spice cakes, anybody?
Yeah, but no, it's actually so. Well, the system itself is pretty solid. I did enjoy it tremendously, but yeah, overall, it does lean heavily into this pastiche thing. So we can discuss that in more detail later.
Cool. Yeah, and we definitely will. Tom, what about you?
Overall, I think it was a breath of fresh air for one.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I love sci-fi games. Mm-hmm. We do a fair amount of them, but
last year or so we've actually leaned a lot more on it in the last 2 years.
But it felt kind of good to be playing a system where you're freelancers. Mm-hmm. You're just trying to do you. Mm-hmm. It's not like Eclipse Phase where you're usually with Firewall trying to stop this. I love that there's nothing we have to stop that's threatening everyone.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of a little more down to like
open-ended,
down, like I wouldn't, ironically, down to earth. But
Tom, would you say that we are the threat?
We are the one who knocks.
Yes.
All right. That's a good point about the open-ended versus the sort of like questing thing that a lot of our campaigns have done. Historically speaking, we often like, here is this story, this plot that you must get through. And Scum is like, yeah, you got your spaceship, you need to pay your bills. What are you gonna do? Crime. All right, we'll do some crimes.
It's like, well, do you want to actually have a legit low-paying job? Like, yeah, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Do you want to totally ally with one faction, help them achieve their goal no matter what? It's like, so far you haven't really found one.
It kind of seems that like a big point, a big idea of that game is.
I mean, no, actually, we'll talk into a little, but that actually is the suggested end of a campaign, is to help one faction achieve their goal. But Aaron, what is your sort of overview of the system?
Overall, something that I really loved is a larger focus on cooperation than I've seen in some of the other games, because especially for different science fiction ones like that we've done before, like Eclipse Phase, obviously everybody's going to a common goal, but kind of the way that they've set up the characters previously is that everybody is kind of more laser focused in their own lane. And it seems that, it's very hard, especially if you might have another player that's really willing to run off and do their own thing, that it's sometimes to the disadvantage of the group. There's no real other control that goes into it. Blaze in the Dark, Scum and Villainy actually is a huge focus on making sure all the parts are going together. And as you will listen for the campaign that'll eventually come out, there are a couple points where somebody, you might see my hand raising right now, does something that, threw things off the rails completely, and it took more of a group effort, even on my side, to kind of bring that back in, but that kind of handled with everybody else. So the cooperative aspect of this is something I really enjoyed.
Certainly the mechanics emphasize that a lot more. I would say, for one thing, in a character helping someone else, assisting someone else, makes a much larger bonus to the person.
Absolutely.
In Scum and Villainy / in the Forge in the Dark system versus most RPGs, like, a D20. Oh, you get a +2. Your effort gives that guy a +2, versus this one giving you an extra D6 roll, which is really big.
Yeah,
I think an important part of it that I really enjoy over most other systems is that whenever you're doing an assist in most systems, it's just, you'll get a lot of players that just abuse the shit out of it because they're thinking, I can do this for free and the group succeeds. You sacrifice. You pay for that assist. There's like a lot of debate over who's helping whom, and who still has stress left to do anything.
Definitely want to talk about stress, because that was a stressor for the campaign.
Boo!
Is there a cow loose in here?
Yeah. First off, to give the campaign, the first 2 episodes of which, of course, as of this recording, are on RPPR, the RPPR Patreon, under our new thing called Extended Early Access. And they just called the Oddballs. It's about you guys being smugglers and doing weird jobs with the weird factions.
Also because we decided not to have an actual name for the ship, but just a series of names that we burn every time.
Yeah.
Like the Phantom
I like
Mule.
that. Check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes, and we'll have some preview little clips up on social media, so you can check that out. But the one thing to mention, to give it a little more description of the system itself, if you're not familiar with it, is that it is a descendant of Powered by the Apocalypse, in that it uses D6s and it has 3 success types or results. You can fail, you can succeed with a complication, or you can totally succeed. It actually has another one called critical successes, but those are basically just, you get additional shit. But instead of the roll 2d6, add a modifier, then, hope you get at least a 7 of Powered by the Apocalypse. Now you're just rolling a pool of d6s, and you just look at your highest die. And so even with 1 die, you can totally succeed on something. Because if you roll 6, totally success, 4 through 5, complication, 1 through 3, failure. So, I like that. I think that's a little faster because you don't have to add anything. You literally just look at the highest number.
I talk about it with the general rules. I think that leaves it loose enough where it's not just, I guess, for people who would look at Fate and say they don't want to kind of have to create the backstory for absolutely everything, but it leaves enough crunch in there for the people who really, that's like require that, but not maybe like D&D level. That's every little stat for everything.
It's obvious. Well, there is a bit of crunch in it. Yeah,
there is
that. But
come on, like math. Ugh.
Yeah,
but it is essentially a narrative system. So
it's not a storytelling system. I mean, I would still classify it as like a traditional RPG, but even like in Powered by the Apocalypse, like, oh, you have a +3. Oh, that's so hard to add up. But like if you're doing it, 30 times a night, and then like, oh, it's a different plus modifier. It's a -1 instead of a +3. It can throw some players off for a loop, especially if you like, oh, now you have a -1 because you're injured or something like that. Now it's all just, what is your die pool size, and then just roll that. I do like that. So in terms of the system itself, I kind of it is focused on doing jobs, missions, and the way it works is you get to choose 6 approaches, ranging from assault to deception to transport. So like, I'm not gonna list them all, but you choose your approach and then you focus in on when the job starts. There's no pre-planning, you just go. So I know that I felt was one of the harder things to get into. I don't know, at least from the GM perspective, but
I mean, there's a lot of adaptation on the GM's part for that, because every player is going to have their own. Here's my role. I want to use this as hard as possible. So Tom's character was Captain Badass with a shit ton of guns, so he would want to go full assault. I was playing more of a talker by default, and of course he wanted to try and like con his way through it. Whereas Aaron's character wanted to use more technical solutions like computer hacking, or let me make a device. Let's start this with a great big device or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we all had our own little edge to it. Mm-hmm. It just depended on who was kicking off the job.
Yeah. So yeah, any other thoughts on the job system like that?
It's more or less kind of mirroring what he talked about too. That I like that, but I like the fact that it gave us a clearer starting point for everything else. Because usually, for different groups, especially if you have others that the GM will set up the time frame, set up a situation, but they have a hard time seeing what skill would really be able to work from it. I think that's a good guidepost for the rest of the players to be able to kind of go through, so they can at least set up some different lanes to go into, or even for better, if you're a GM, you don't feel like you're having to railroad them into one specific way to do this.
Yeah. Tom, did you have any thoughts on the job system?
The jobs, I think, as much as it's been I guess the campaign, but I kind of wish there was more like a way to like kind of create your own jobs.
Okay.
Well, we kind of did a couple of
times, but it was more like that's kind of us doing it on our. That's kind of us making up shit on our own.
Well, the finale was entirely us.
Yeah.
I think part of that, Tom, I see what you mean, but I think part of this was also me learning the system. And
yeah.
I think this game is a little more challenging to run from the GM perspective.
I mean, because I'm going to be running an online game of it pretty soon here.
Yeah. I thought you were using that in Base Raiders.
This is this is a different game.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, for the example, for the one that we ran at PAX South, that had a lot of elements that were very heavily influenced by the players. Mm-hmm. During that entire game, such as part of the settings, how we were approaching it through. I think we went through the deception line on that one. So yeah, you kind of really just kind of laid out the basis framework, saying like this guy is here, and then we got to build everything around it.
I mean, a lot of this whole the flip side though of being able to build your own jobs is actually having an idea of what you want to do. And the thing is, going back to your pastiche thing, the setting is so sort of like. Kind of vague about stuff in certain ways that like it's kind of hard. I feel like I don't know. Would you if you guys all sat down and I was running a session and be like, okay, we want to do this. I mean, I would be fine doing that. Like if you told me what you wanted to do.
I know. No, that's why I'm not. That's why I'm not dunking on it. It's because I fully agree. Hey, we were doing this game for the first time.
Yeah.
And also, we didn't do our rule of do a one shot to learn it.
Yeah, well, that the first session of the campaign was basically the one shot. If you guys had not liked the game, I would have not continued running it.
I think we're all kind of like just all right, let's not do anything too crazy.
Well, I mean, here's the thing though,
we kind of did.
Later we did.
We've done six. We've done a number of sessions now. Do you feel like if we all sat down, you could just tell me what you wanted to do, and then I would just adjudicate it? Could you come up with your own jobs?
I think so.
Okay,
I never had any problem with that.
Okay. No. Well, like, what would you want to do?
I mean, I know obviously I don't want to give away too much on it because I know where we wound up, and at that last job was just like, guys, I've got an idea, and it went there.
Well, I mean, do you have so you already at this point have a long-term goal for your character?
The character himself would not have any long-term goals necessarily.
Yeah,
but it's just be more an issue of figuring out what the group sort of wants to go for a direction.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the jobs we did, you were informed by what we came up with in a previous session or outside the game. Like, oh, hey, we want to do something involving fill in the blank, or things would evolve from previous sessions and actions.
Yeah. Or another good example, without obviously giving anything away from this campaign, but with certain acquisitions that not only mean something to another member of our party, but to me as well, being kind of the robot aspect, the robot of the group. That could be another one of saying, hey, I want to learn more about this particular discipline to understand this thing, even though I'm completely from a different, it's like a different background.
So like that was in the middle of the campaign, I think, when you sort of got access to that. So, so you think, so at this point you can, but like it takes some time to like understand, like, because it's a setting that's not established in previous fiction or anything like that, you kind of like, I don't feel like you can go right out of the gate like, I want to do this, because like,
because I've had fantasies of doing a Star Wars game where we play criminals, like, let's fuck some shit up here, but this is like, but I think it's something like this, if we're a little more used to it, I think we could totally make up our own narrative. And
well, we kind of did. We had some guidelines to start with.
We started towards the end.
When we made the ship, we did establish what kind of jobs we were going to do, and we chose to do kind of the oddball jobs with a smuggler ship. Therefore, a lot of our operations were carrying things, stealing things. We weren't going on combat heavy missions necessarily. Yeah, we did kind of narrow focus.
Yeah, the game does provide a couple options.
And again, I felt that like early on, it took a couple sessions to get footing, but I think we kind of hit our stride earlier than you're saying.
Well, as far as action, like I spend a lot of time attached to a harness outside the airlock with a detonator launcher.
Yeah. Well, so as long as you're doing that, you're fine.
Well, you kept telling me to do it
because it worked.
So one thing I do, like we mentioned earlier, stress is kind of an important resource.
It's almost like a currency.
It is definitely a currency in the game. It kind of replaces hit points, or it's actually better than hit points or sanity. Like hit points are in D&D game, and sanity in a Cthulhu game are kind of the resources you use to survive encounters. Or like in Cthulhu, like if you have a lot of sanity, well, I'll go read the books, But if you don't, you're kind of like, So. What do you think about stress? Would you make any changes to the system as it is right now?
I kind of like it. I mean, the wound system was a tiny bit confusing. Because you're lightly wounded. You took this one thing. You're at the mid-range. Do you get 2 mid-range wounds, or how does that work? You know what I mean?
Well, it's on the character sheet. There is a line. So,
there is. I'm just saying, like, it was
2 of the first 2 levels and 1 of the third.
Yeah. But, so there was that, and it was, we still managed to navigate that pretty decently. But the stress was the important part, and we were banking our stress and gambling it off because all those flashbacks and assists.
Yeah.
And we had to like sit there and debate for a second. I'm up to this much stress. I might be able to assist. Well, look over at somebody else's character sheet. You've got 3 and I'm at 6. Maybe you should help. I don't know how I'd help. Just fucking do something.
Yeah. So you feel like that was fun, being able to like having this group effort to manage the stress?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Absolutely.
Actually.
So, and that, I think that actually really helped with the cooperative attitude, where we were supposed, a lot of us, again, would kind of punish ourselves to the point of detriment, but then we have to back off and go like, hey, shoot, like who can actually trade this before somebody finally takes a trauma. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it took a while.
And of course, I really enjoy the de-stressing after, because I love the idea of like, it's like, like booze and horror is like, I clearly have not boozed or whored enough.
Yeah.
I need more.
So getting more role playing in terms of,
and also, and I love that it's not just okay. You roll well on that roll. Like, all right, I've lost. Like, I love that you can overindulge.
Yeah.
But I think another thing, it kind of forced people to work to get a little bit more. So as Aaron touched upon, there's this tendency in many games in RPPR for somebody to just grab the idiot ball and run the fuck off. We've all done it. I don't want to, don't even, we've all done it several times.
I'm not saying anything.
All of us. So, this game actually kind of, that actually,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Outside of that, a shit ton more. Anyhow, again, all of us. So the funny part, though, is that this happened a lot less as a result because you had to use that stress for specific things. There was a little bit of that, but not a big deal.
So you feel like the point levels of it, like, I mean, so the general principle seemed everybody's in agreement you like it, but you feel like the point levels and everything are fine?
Yeah, no, actually. And again, it came to that whole economics of stress. And made us sit down and consider and discuss, can I afford this? Who can afford this? We have to make sure it happens. So every now and again, you get a player who's like, well, I haven't been injured so far. I'll hide behind the group. That shit doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. And also there's the benefit of keeping that's like keeping the bonuses from your good rolls together, because those, I forget what the dice names, what the ones,
the gambits,
the gambit dice. Thank you. Yeah. Because the game obviously gives you a couple other options where they're the gambit dice, which you get if you roll extremely well on
if you get a success on a risky
maneuver.
Certain playbooks will get bonuses on,
and it was always a discussion, a group choice, and like, hey, I might need some of these. Yeah, okay, cool, go ahead. Or we might need those for the next part of the job.
Yeah, is this particular point really that important to you or to the group? So yeah, and granted, I could see other groups maybe just hoarding or stealing from it, but the game honestly seems like it's going to punish you later on for that if you really are not watching out.
Yeah,
and if you screw over your group members, they're not going to fucking help you out, are
exactly.
They?
It's going to be, for Firefly, Firefly references, that's going to be your Jane moment of, oh, I'm in the airlock. What the hell?
Yeah.
I think the thing is, what I appreciated as a GM was that you could mostly reset stuff after jobs, but there's accumulation over time. Certainly because not just with stress, but also with heat in wanted levels, as that was building up.
Absolutely.
Constantly building up.
Weirdly enough. Like you guys are criminals doing criminal things. And I like that there's this kind of accumulation as you're building up more and more. You gain more experience, you gain more resources. But like one thing, your character's stashes are very small, so you're still like very fragile. You like if you're gonna retire, it's gonna suck. So you still have a long ways to go in your career as a criminal, but it's having an impact, and it's not all like it's. I find it a lot more interesting than the D&D model is like your character progression is uniformly positive.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, it was kind of funny that the heat level thing did lead to a group discussion of, okay, we're in this system. How pissed are they? Can we afford to go loud here?
Yeah. Which I think the game is meant to do.
Yeah, it was great. Can we afford to bust out, full armament on the ship and blow something up?
Can we use the big gun?
Yeah, everything here is just like, all right, we really need to wheel and deal. Who haven't we pissed off? So
and I really do like that. Yeah, and because it's again, like I'm just now thinking about D&D. It's like your character just gets better over time, and there's no long-term impact of all those near-death injuries. I'm down 2 hit points. Boom, I'm fully healed. That's not going to have long-term impact. I killed 500 orcs in this valley. That's not going to have a long-term impact.
Like, the rest of the orc species will now look upon me as their boogeyman.
No, in D&D, there's no mechanics for that.
Well, when you think about it, it kind of reflects shift from in subgenre for sci-fi being clean, episodic versus, you always see the term a lived-in universe.
Yeah.
Like for Alien and Star Wars both have that feel.
Sure.
It's a lived-in game.
Yeah.
You all that shit builds up. People get pissed off. There's a bunch of baggage somewhere. Somebody you might have remotely pissed off early on that you decide to keep fucking with eventually gets a little bit angry with you.
Yeah. No kidding. I definitely do want to talk about Petsy stuff and the setting, but I do want to get through a little more of the mechanics first.
Sorry,
because no. I mean, that was a really good point. I do definitely want to talk about like flashbacks too.
Yes.
I know you guys. You seem to. I mean, there was a bit of a learning curve with them, and I feel like that's one of the like this game is not. Certain RPGs are harder to learn than others, and some once you figure out one thing, they're a lot easier. Like the one roll engine, I feel is like once you figure out that the actual one rolling and matching width and height and all that shit, like it's just this is easy. But like this game, I feel it seems simple at first, but there's some tricks to it in like figuring out how to use flashbacks properly, both as the GM and as the player. Feels like a little. Because that's the flashbacks are the core of how jobs work.
Yeah,
right. I like that part.
Yeah. So I mean, what are any thoughts on? Would you change any of the flashback mechanics?
I would say, and I'd like to think the flashback part we got relatively quickly, at least some faster than others. And I mean, it's a pretty straightforward mechanic once you get your mind into the actual set of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And also, when we were playing, you never just let us use it as the magic. It's like press magic button, everything goes back because I was always here, or the Bill and Ted. That's like Bogus Journey thing. I have this gun right here, no matter. It was far more the Ocean style of like, hey, we were kind of hiding in here. This thing kind of, because you can still screw that up royally in the flashbacks,
right?
And that's like, and it doesn't give you the exact result that you might want. So, and then you have to make another plan going forward with it as well. So I think it's a good way to try to save yourself, but also for the GM to reap some benefit narratively if something goes wrong, or another loop on the story.
Mm-hmm. Tom, did you have something about flashback? Okay,
pretty much covering what I was thinking.
All right, fair enough. I feel like if anything, as players, you guys should even be more aggressive with flashbacks in structuring them and framing them, because I feel like the thing about flashbacks, at least the way I'm running them right now, is it's never a guarantee that you'll succeed at something. It's that basically the flashback to me is a framing device to explain why you get to roll dice to solve this new challenge. Like there's guys with guns in the door. Well, I planted a claymore mine and it's pointed at their heads. Okay, well, you have to roll to see if your trap goes off. So
it is a bit non-trad, but I mean, part of the issue is you don't want to push things so far that the GM's bullshit alarm goes off. So,
well, I mean, the thing is though, like one thing, that's a very good point. But I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, at least on the games that we've run, where that would happen. Because again, I would never say that because of the flashback you succeed. It's at best you get a chance to roll dice to solve it.
Well, I mean, it's like kind of when you have an abstract power, and there are systems that do accommodate that well, but you get that player who picks their highest rated ability and they just go, oh, wait, I'm going to make this apply to everything. Of course this power works. I dodge the water with my powers.
We're not talking about Exalted.
I know, but it
or pleading.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, there are certain levels like where players will do that, and even the best players will try it sometimes. So.
But I mean, I can't think of a way, because like, you're like, oh, I'm really good at this thing. I'm going to try and solve everything is now a nail for this hammer.
And you know, to the point of ignoring the rest of the character sheet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, again, we're also skeptical to it, but at the same time.
Well, so the easiest thing would be like combat. So like Tom's muscle character. So like the thing is though, there are limits because the flashback also can't contradict what's already happened. So like, there's a customs guy who's inspecting you and he detects your cargo. Flashback, I actually beat the shit out of him this morning when he was getting his morning newspapers. Like, no, he's already there. You can't have mugged him and broken his face before that happened. So
or just threaten him like remember I dressed as the milkman this morning. Like milkman here, like, what's a milkman? Like, actually, this is hydrofluoric acid, and if you don't let us through, I will throw this in your face.
A simple version would have just been, I did beat the crap out of him, but he didn't know I was on this ship.
Well, no, but you can't beat the crap out of him because I already said he's there.
I know he's there.
Yeah.
He's got like a black eye,
and
that's when you show up on the view screen and kind of stare him down.
Okay,
something like that might be a little more plausible.
Actually, no. The way to, if you want to do that, so instead of a fighting check, it's an intimidate check, which in the game is command, I believe.
Yeah.
It would be, I show him a picture of his favorite sports hover car that he bought with bribe money. And I say, be a real shame if something happened to that. And so like, that would be like a 2-stress flashback, at least for me to say you've already had that, but like, that would definitely be allowable. And then you still have to roll command to actually succeed. Cause otherwise like, nope, I don't believe you. So if you're going to try and intimidate everything, then like,
just say that's one option.
So it's just a matter of framing it and thinking it out. And I feel like, probably one of the problems with this system for me, at least, is like everyone tries to get, hurry up and roll the dice and solve it. And like there is this kind of thing. We try and hurry up a little bit. Certainly if we're doing like 2 jobs in one night or something like that. And we don't like think about how to frame flashbacks or figure a better way to frame the challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. Well, absolutely, especially when you kind of talk about the 2-job nights where by the end of it, we're going like, what can we blow up?
Yeah.
Where have we already planted the charges at? So, Or in our case, like, hey, what if we aimed our giant, overpowered Doom cannon at?
Basically, yeah.
I won't say Jason because I did that too.
Well, I mean, that was Jason's pick. He really wanted that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was with him 100% on that.
Yeah.
So.
Or who can we piss off now?
Well, we've never run out of people to piss off.
Yeah,
that always is.
Yeah, no, as you are building up heat and wanted levels, and you can't get rid of all of them because you can try to do that, but like everyone is like, no, I want to train, I want to do this, I want to do this. Fuck you, I need to de-stress.
I've worked on it a couple times.
I know you have. Tom, any thoughts on the Xenos?
I think that it works just fine because I think it's like Star Wars. It reminds me of Star Wars. Like what alien do you want to play? Like, I don't have enough breadcrumbs to get home here. There's literally. I think at this point, even their new movies, they don't want to go to the ones they've already made. They just want to keep making new ones.
Sure.
So eventually, if it's supposed to be like a densely populated galaxy with lots of different races, eventually a species list is just not going to work.
Okay.
And I think the system completely works. So like, what alien do you want to play? Like this one. All right. That's what you can do when you spend your stress with your Xeno powers. That's it.
Yeah. All right.
And I think, I think the system is perfectly elegant and simple. It does the job. I had no trouble playing my dude like that.
Mm-hmm.
Technically speaking, out of the 5-person crew, 2 were humans.
Yeah.
One person had human rules, but was technically a Xeno. So,
And also, I also like you can even be a Xeno that doesn't have any special abilities and not give up your ability to be a Xeno.
I think that's what Renee chose to do.
Yeah, it's like you can be an alien that just doesn't have any special abilities.
Yeah,
outside of the way. So
or even that. Yeah.
Why don't we? We'll talk about that in a second. That's a exciting thing. I do also last mechanic I want to really talk about is loadouts, because I know you want to talk about that.
Yes,
Aaron.
no, that was something that I really loved because not that I've had a lot of problem with it, but considering this is something I'll bring Eclipse phase back into, that when you're going into different missions or different settings, it kind of felt confining that you, if we're on a campaign like for No Evil, we're always looking back into the book to see, like, all right, which pistol can we carry? What can we fab during this one? And it could be fun, but also time consuming. Whereas Scum and Villainy has actually done a really elegant thing by basically giving you each of your characters a specific set of items that you can take in, specialized and general, and you can choose whether it's just going to be a light if you're doing an infiltration, medium if you're kind of on the general operator, or heavy if, hey, we need grenades during that time. And I love the simple specifications from here, like within our game. I don't know how many times the being able to choose the fine hacking tools really came in handy, especially when I needed something saying like, hey, this gives me literally 2 more dice to roll, and I suck at this. So
on the other hand, I always had a very nice jacket.
Yes, you did have a very nice jacket.
You did use that a lot.
They were all different jackets, okay?
I mean,
but there was not that one.
No, it was an excellent point. I mean, it's kind of the Eclipse phase first came out in 2009, and that's sort of the traditional D&D kind of version of RPGs, where like have a gear list and here are all their specific stats and here's what they can specifically do. And this is, a game made in 2018 where it's like, this is a gun. It does gun things. Yep. Coat does social things.
Yep.
And that's it. Like, it's literally one line on your sheet, and it's all through. It's whatever the GM says it can do.
Yeah. So
I think they're like at 3 levels of you have a thing that lets you do a thing. You have a thing that gives you a bonus at a thing, and you have a nice thing that gives you a better bonus at that thing.
Exactly.
So one of the basic equipments that doesn't give a bonus that's listed on I think every character sheet is illicit substance.
Yeah.
Just to give you a feel for the game. I mean, and we did use that.
Yeah.
Multiple times, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't say what kind of illicit
That's like, would you like your cyber cocaine?
Do you want to plant it on somebody to frame them? Do you want to get a chemical boost?
Do you want to give somebody a hot shot?
Are you sleepy?
Yeah. You want to poison the guard monster's food. So
just right now, hey, can I hotbox with that guy so he's distracted?
I make him take the space acid.
Yep. I want to give him the drugs that affect robots. The nano algorithm drugs. Anyways. face.
It's like, oh god, so a drug that comes on a disc.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That actually is an eclipse phase.
Hey! You want a USB? I got them. I even got floppies.
So I guess you have to bring.
At least you didn't say dongle.
Okay. You have to bring in the gangster robot. You'd want to bring the gangster robot from Futurama for that, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, hey man, it's like, you want a USB? It's good shit.
The clamps.
Yeah, the one thing I will, one sort of criticism of the system, though, is that they have this whole thing about tiers, which is for the GMs, and there are different tiers of organizations, and they say, oh, even if you have fine hacking tools, that's counterbalanced by a higher tier of thing, and it's still kind of vague, and still left hand-wavy left to the GMs, and it's just kind of like, you know, I kind of, and there's also this whole thing about scaling and effect in terms of like the rule, the example they give in the book is saying your hand blaster, no matter how well you roll, can't blow up a capital ship.
Yeah, and
that's all right, fair, but like it's kind of like okay. It kind of gets a little nitpicky again for me. Like, okay, you have fine hacking tools, but you're tier 1 and he's tier 2, and he has this other event. And it's like, what? How many? Wait, is it a bonus or a penalty?
So, Ross, so you're saying you don't want a situation like that Star Wars game we played, where we were running from a Star Destroyer and like, okay, we know we have one turn before we get to hyperspace. Can we all just take a shot at the Star Destroyer?
Oh yeah.
And I think it was Matt who was like, all right, fine, and crit. Yeah. And when he totaled up, it took like 20 minutes when he finally totaled up all the damage. Like, you've inflicted more structure damage than the Star Destroyer has. And he said, and that's what I think at that point he said, no, I'm not allowing this to happen, but it's reduced to 1 and it's dead in space.
Yeah.
And followed by like, okay, when Darth Vader would ask, why did you let them go? Like, he looked, okay, actually, you guys are fine. That's I'm not going to
understanding.
Well, I mean, it's kind of one of the problems when you're designing a game, I guess, that you're trying to quantify an abstract.
Yeah.
And that comes with its own problems. Even Fate has that issue. I mean,
Fate has its own issues, but that's I feel like for me one of the weakest areas in the game is that whole scaling, tiers, and effect thing.
So you feel like you're making small change or something?
Well, it's just like figuring out what the actual modifier for the player would be. Like, is this tier modifying this his fine tool, his bonus from this, and like there's just
So it's leaving it to you more to really set that standard.
It's just kind of nebulous how it's written in the game. And so I'm like, the thing is, you guys, the way the rules are written is you're tier 1. So basically almost all the organizations all the factions in the game are above tier 1. Like 2/3 of them are. And so they all you'd be at disadvantages basically facing 2/3 of the game. So like, I felt like,
I think it's okay to do sparingly if you say, okay, like this computer, this is actually a true AI. You can't hack it.
Yeah. Well, but like, it's just, I don't know. You should look at it.
If they're applying like a lot of the stuff they had built into Blades in the Dark, there should have been a way to kind of up your tier level by boosting a lot of your background stuff, your organization, which
you can do that with your spaceship. Yeah.
Okay. Which should boost you in tier.
But that takes time, and that's a campaign thing. So
and in another question, because you mentioned Fate too, would this be similar to like when we were talking about the super abilities for base raiders, where you have the basic, the superhuman, extraordinary, and
these are it's literally tiers. So it's definitely that, but it's less. It's more it's not quite as like in Base Raiders in that version of Fate. It's very concrete and exactly how that works out. But that game is very crunchy in that superpowers way. This is a little different, and it's totally on the GM end. You guys don't see it at all because you're players. So it's like it's kind of hashtag GM problem. So
it actually almost kind of feels like it's something that could be. Follow me on this. On some level, I don't know if it's designed this way. It could be used to justify. I don't want you to be able to do this. Yeah. It sounds like horseshit.
It's exactly that.
And then the GM just goes, well, technically speaking.
They're tier 4, and so you get -3 dice to your roll. So you're down to 0, so you can't even try.
Yeah, and it feels like it's something in the toolbox, really, but I don't know.
I feel like that could be simplified and a little clarified instead of having tiers, just saying like, if it's really hard, do this. If it's not, it's this. And then, or make the tiers more narrative instead of like quantitative in terms of their game effects. Anyways,
but I would say
minor problem.
And there's nothing wrong with occasionally having, okay, this thing you can't beat.
Yeah. Well, every game should have that. It's like, we take over the planet. We're just going to shoot every guard on this planet. No, but I'm really good at fighting. And I rolled 2 6s. I rolled critical. I win the planet.
I have the ability. Let's be Ricochet.
Yeah.
Like, why did I put in a conquer planet skill?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, there's no conquer planet
What
rating.
Ricochet? Why is this planet made of all reflective skyscrapers?
We have a big gun. I fired it. All the enemies are dead.
You watched Gundam. That's how it works.
It's not a Gundam game, though.
God damn it.
So, yeah, let's talk about the setting a little bit. So, there is a built-in setting to this where you're on the frontier, the outer rim, bouncing between 4 solar systems. There, inside of the Empire, there's the hegemon. Well, that's the name of their emperor, the hegemony. That is the Empire equivalent. There's several factions. If you read up the faction descriptions, you can see about there's this Game of Thrones style political intrigue between various noble families and guilds. There's a cloner guild. There's a spacer guild. There's all these.
But that's over there.
Well, I mean, these are the factions you can take jobs from or take against. So
there's also like the various esoteric orders, cults.
There's a lot of cults.
Yeah.
There's also the Way, which is
the Force.
It's not the Force. It's totally different.
Totally different.
It's a
totally
ancient mystical path, Tom. Not something made up by some dude who was trying to do a Buck Rogers knockoff. I mean,
no, that'd be the Schwartz. The Schwartz in this case. So
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Or the farce.
But yeah.
When you tune to the Way, you open your mind to the galactic energies underlying all of existence.
Quaid.
Technically, robots can do it in this one, so that's the thing. So your robot could take points in Way.
Okay, I was actually curious because I didn't realize that was a possibility. So hello points.
Hello, psychic robot.
Well, because they also do have a lot of Way powered artifacts from an ancient civilization, the precursors that are dead, but they left all the kinds of cool Deus Ex Machina MacGuffins behind. Plot devices and shit. So,
which does happen in the campaign.
Yeah, it does happen quite a bit. I am fond of that trope.
I'm not knocking it. It was fun.
Actually, I love coming glowing. Hey, look what I found for my expansion slot.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, we have that. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, on the setting overall?
Again, we kind of briefly touched on it a couple times. Mm-hmm. I like that they're kind of doing callbacks. It kind of keeps it a little bit light, but then again, people might have their expectations based on their experiences with what is being given a shout out, what is getting homage, and they'll carry that baggage with them into the game, and not everybody has the same connection. So
yeah, the assumptions are going to be different.
Like I typically don't see Firefly as purely heroic. I see a lot of villainy,
flawed characters,
and which the flawed characters are great. That's what makes it interesting. But like, spoilers for a show that's been off the air for a long ass time. It's like, yes, and they're heroic, they're doing the right thing. Dude, at one point during a hostage negotiation, a guy just walks in and straight up murks a motherfucker. I mean, that's not how you'd usually heroically do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the things I saw baked into the game. And
yeah, is this like a light Star Wars Solo kind of, or is this going to be like grimdark fighting, helping the true heir to the hegemony back on the throne and killing everyone in their way?
That's great, but we have.
Or are you going to be rebels fighting against the evil?
Those are options. Those are options, but dude, we got bills to pay.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, Aaron.
No, and you're right. Just kind of, it's finding a way to kind of blend all of those together. Like the person who's obviously coming in from the Firefly aspect, the one who's coming in from the Dune, or the one who's coming from the Expanse with the 3 different systems that are fighting, the 4 different systems that are possibly fighting each other. Obviously the Star Wars references on there. So I actually do like this though, because
is this like a Tomb Raider thing where you're just like, oh, we're gonna find artifacts and figure them out, or a Doctor Who even kind of thing.
And I do see it. Yeah. Ultimately, it may come up as a weakness of the story as compared to something like Blades in the Dark that had far more of a concrete setting in its originality. But at the same time, though, I feel that may be more of a feature than a bug, because when you're going into it, you're right. Everybody's going to have those expectations. It's just how you blend them in a way. So
and as long as everyone at the table has the same
exactly.
Yeah. But that is a danger if they don't.
And like, for example, one thing I brought to the table with how I was approaching it was I actually was trying to bleed in some Cowboy Bebop.
Oh yeah,
because
there's definitely a bit of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, because I was playing definitely a sleazy, scummy character who's gonna do some things for himself, but still feels obligated to the group.
Yeah, I feel. I mean, just as an overall thing, just speaking as an RPG designer. I mean, if you look at the loadout mechanic, it's for me. I can see the evolution of this mechanic coming from like the preparedness mechanic from Gumshoe / Trail of Cthulhu / Knights Black Agent, etc., where you just spend points to say you have an item, and then like they've streamlined it and improved it. And I feel like there's this now RPG designers are trying to make games that emulate the kind of fiction you see in like, especially hour-long TV shows on cable networks like The Expanse or streaming shows like Netflix, like Altered Carbon, and like have that love, like it's all about the characters in the story and not about like figuring out specific tactical or wargamey kind of game mechanics.
Yeah.
You know, the system mastery is trying to emulate like how well can you narrate this type of story.
Well,
even as a player, because you like, I have flashback. This is how this is going to work.
On a personal level, I fully approve of this mechanic because that was one of my problems with a lot of the early games. You know,
yeah,
I was never a huge fan of the crunch, and it was always when you're talking to somebody who's just starting off, they're like, I don't know what to do. Everybody seems to know the system so well.
Yeah,
don't think about that. Think about the kind of stories you like to read or watch or hear, and then emulate that. Try and recreate some elements of that story or how you do it differently, maybe.
So someone. This is the kind of game for people who are really involved and like knowledgeable about that genre, at least in terms of like being able to evoke it. So like you don't necessarily have to watch all the shows, but you have to know the kind of story beats, or kind of appreciate them, especially since this is based on like heists and Scum and Villainy. So yeah,
if you like crime movies and you like places that you like movies with kind of a dirty feel to them, it's fantastic.
Yeah, but if you're not the kind of person who can think quickly on your feet, or if your group isn't, this may kind of seem sort of bullshitty, because players are I planted the gun on him, flashback, so the cops search him and he's the one who's going to get arrested, that kind of thing. So
kind of the difference between a well thought out retort and a hand wave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's fun, like, and it's fun to run, but like I really do want to see when we pick it up again, if we can get like more of an ongoing story, at least in some way, because like there's this idea that I feel if you did a lot of this without sort of like moving towards some kind of goal, it would get kind of samey. It's like, oh, we're doing another job. Okay. You know,
well, I mean, how's this? Without spoiling anything, I think we brought a couple of elements back towards the last few episodes, and we did pick up something kind of permanently that could lead us down a path that matches. Since we were going to go for the weird stuff in the universe, we did kind of pick up something that's important for that. Yeah,
absolutely. Like I think we are. Yeah, I think for us, it took us a few sessions to get our footing and get it figured out. And now we are moving that way. But I would just warn people, if you're planning to run a campaign of this, kind of figure out what direction you want to go. You don't need to plot out everything in advance, but like try and like start foreshadowing stuff you want to hit on, like, oh, here's the rightful heir of the empire, the person who should be hegemon, but they're being taken away. Oh, well, 10 sessions later, oh, you have to rescue this person, you know. Or
like, oh god, they're forcing me to do the right thing.
Yep.
No,
but what is the right thing?
Having an actual set end game, I think, is probably good for any campaign, to be honest. I know people like doing that long meander, but
Six-Pack's goal is to retire with enough money that he doesn't have to worry about ordering extra guac.
What is do you know what his stash is right now?
Yeah, he has 6 in it right now.
6 in it. So that's still the bottom tier.
I know, but
you need at least 10 to not live in the gutter.
Which I know is like, but no, that's why, like, sorry, are you done with this job? Like, no. no, I'm still going to keep out going and doing shit.
Good point.
But I think I have more in my stash than others do.
Probably.
We've been spending it for important things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for him, that's important. Like he likes to walk.
I was saying like ponchos.
All right, so yeah,
jackets.
It's a fun system. Check out our games on RPPR or patreon.com/RPPR. And of course, once we finish Reign and Galaxy 2, then I have an Unknown Armies campaign ready to go. After that, then that'll get posted on the podcast. So keep an eye out. Ooh. But when we come back, we will first actually have a review of a game by Kyle from Best Power Brigades, and then after that we will have shout outs and talk about PAX South 2019.
PAX South!
And we're back, and we have a special segment where Kyle Carty of BPB Games, Best Pal Brigade, I believe I got that right.
You did.
Is here to review a supplement for Torchbearer we got a review copy of. And what is this called?
So the supplement for Torchbearer is called Rising Tide. And it is by, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce her name, but I believe it's Oren Ashkenazi. Mm-hmm. And it is described as a Dark Seas expansion for Torchbearer. Mm-hmm. And right off the bat, I mean, when you first asked if anyone wanted to review this, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. I believe I asked you if I was allowed to be like critical, and you were like, yeah, be as critical as you can be. And
well, be honest. I mean, like
exactly. Like I'm not going to try and break it down if I actually like it, but I'm going to tell the truth. And I gotta say, I fucking love this supplement. Like, it's real good.
Cool. Well, tell us about it. So, like, I'm looking through it, and it kind of describes it's a steampunk gothic horror aesthetic. And that's a little different from Torchbearer, which is more of the D&D, but it's even more depressing.
Yeah. So for those of you who might not be familiar with Torchbearer, here's just like a really quick rundown on it. Mm-hmm. It's sort of loosely based on Burning Wheel, which is the system that MouseGuard uses. And it's a system that doesn't emphasize combat as much as it does the dungeon crawl, where, you know, like D20 systems are all about like, this is designed to be a combat simulator. This game is designed to wear you into the ground just by the act of going through the dungeon and like overcoming the terrain hazards and traps and things like that. So if I had to like compare it to a video game, I would say that Torchbearer is Darkest Dungeon, which is it's just this like very like dark resource management heavy kind of light combat abstraction system. And if that's Darkest Dungeon, Rising Tide is Sunless Sea, which is an exceptional sort of steampunky gothic horror kind of madness at sea video game. So good.
Cool. Yeah, no, I have played MouseGuard. I've not played Torchbearer, but I do have the book and I have read through it. I really do like the idea of like the status conditions, how you can't solve this, you can't cast a spell because your wizard's too hungry and angry. So I like that idea.
The conditions interplay in Torchbearer is really interesting because like you gain these things, and if you're not properly equipped to deal with problems, you start to gain these conditions, and the interplay between them is like you can't get rid of certain conditions while you have other conditions, and all of the conditions impose penalties or prevent certain actions from being taken. Like you said, it works really elegantly for a system that isn't just like, okay, I have 10 hit points out of 100 hit points left, so like how does that make me feel? Where this one's like, okay, this is what you are feeling. It lends itself very well to role playing, despite being sort of such a gritty and granular kind of approach to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I was earlier in this episode, we were kind of talking about this in another system, Scum and Villainy, and like characters build up traumas through suffering too much or going through too much stress. But compared to D&D, we're like, oh, I'm at 3 hit points. boom, I'm fully healed. Okay, well, there's no long-term effect, and I was just fine either way, whether I had 100 hit points or 3.
It's the classic, I've been stabbed by a long spear, but then the cleric cast Cure Wounds on me, and now I'm fine. That ain't it in Torchbearer.
Yeah.
The other thing, I'm sorry, do you have something?
No, I was just, I was like, so I bet it's even worse in Rising Tide. Now there's the ocean. Yeah.
Sort of. Rising Tide's actually super interesting, and it takes what I feel is an appropriate amount from Torchbearer before really making it its own. The other super important thing to both of these games is the encumbrance system, which I have fallen like head over heels in love with. It's so elegant, and it's just the right amount of crunch for me. Because they even mention it in sort of both of the books, where it's like, in a lot of games, encumbrance is just like an abstraction or completely ignored, or it's like way too gritty, where what's imposed for being over encumbered doesn't actually matter at all, or it matters way too much. But the way that they handle it in Torchbearer and Rising Tide is really fresh. Like it's all lightly abstracted into like slots that you can wear. Your bags have slots of like what they can carry. Your body has slots for what you can wear. Certain things, like if you wear plate armor, you can't wear a backpack because it's just not going to work. The encumbrance will be whack as hell. So like you value how much loot you want to try and get with how much you want to try and protect yourself. And that kind of ties into what distinguishes Rising Tide from Torchbearer, which is a game design philosophy that I'm a huge fan of, and that is scale, where there is the in Torchbearer, things are basically just on the adventurer scale, but in Rising Tide, they call it the explorer scale, which is for individuals. And then there is the ship scale, where how much stuff can you just jam pack onto your like magic-ish super science sailing vessel before you run out of space altogether. And like, do you want to use some of those slots to put weaponry? Do you want to use some of those slots to like reinforce your ship? There's a lot of really good stuff going on with encumbrance and like actually making gear equipment matter without having it completely bog the game down.
Right. So there's a lot of interesting resource management that's not it sounds like it's not interesting, but without getting too bogged down in, very tracking a lot of details. I don't know.
For sure. There's some details, but it's presented in such an easy way. So using like the backpack explanation that I went through in the core book, your backpack has, I think it's 6 slots, and you can put the stuff in whatever order you want. And it's like on the character sheet, you can write it all down or just on a piece of scrap paper, however you want to do it. But it takes a different amount of actions to reach stuff that is on a lower slot in the backpack. So once you fill it all the way up, all 6 slots, whatever's on the top slot is what you can access the most readily. And everything else after that takes longer amounts of time or is more difficult or does other things like that, which I think is a really neat way to quickly be like, okay, here's what's in my bag and here's what I have access to at any given time. But the game's whole philosophy sort of does revolve around that sort of abstraction of these very crunchy, granular rules without them being like chewing on sand. And loot's just like the tip of that. It also comes down to like resource rolls in Torchbearer, where you just sort of have all of these very basic resource rolls to get like a long sword or some chainmail. Rising Tide deals almost exclusively on the ship scale, where outfitting your individual explorer is substantially de-emphasized, and like extra bullets or a long arm or something on the explorer scale you just get. Basically, you don't need to make the rolls anymore. And they just explain it several times in the book. They say, oh, that was just a rounding error, or, you know, pocket change, because you're dealing with such massive, like, valued items that you're salvaging from like the dark waters of the world, that it doesn't matter. You're going to get that stuff. So you'll be equipped on the explorer scale. But because you're on a ship together, if you don't equip the ship, then you're all dead.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. I do like that. It sounds almost kind of like it's doing does it extend to the crew as well? I guess the PCs are the leader of a larger ship, or is it just like if there's 4 player characters, that's everyone on the boat, or are there like rules for managing the PC crew?
There actually are rules for that. And it also depends heavily on like the size of ship that you're using. So like there are smaller ships that you can use that probably could feasibly be run by just the player characters, but their limitations are like you won't be able to take as much cargo on and things like that.
Sure.
So, but once you start to like advance and go for bigger hauls and you require more people, you do need to start to deal with crews, which also ties into sort of resource roles. But interestingly enough, the conditions that we were talking about before, a lot of them apply on the ship scale now, where there are specific conditions that are like the crew is starting to get mutinous. Everybody on board has run out of food and now they're all getting hungry, and like the ship's hull is damaged, and all of these things sort of play into, if you have this crew, they are more useful and you can get rich quicker, but now you have to deal with all of these new problems, but it's still in the same familiar framework of conditions.
Okay, yeah. I mean, what kind of RPG set on the high seas can't have rules for mutiny? I mean, they have to have rules for mutiny. I mean, it wouldn't be a sailing RPG without them. So
this one definitely has them,
cool.
And it is one of the more interesting conditions because it requires more than just one skill to resolve. Like you have to first deal with the primary rabble rouser, like whoever's behind it, with a certain skill. I think it's like persuading. And then the other one, you have to address sort of the crew as a whole with, I believe, oratory, and talk them down after you've sort of won the leader over.
Well, it sounds like the mechanics have everything you need for this, like, high adventure sort of, sailing, age of exploration sort of game. But like, we haven't really talked much about the setting. Now it says here in the sort of, intro that it's the same similar setting to the Sunless Sea setting, which is a video game from the Fallen London setting for franchise, whatever you want to call it. So
I didn't know
it's
that was a franchise.
Well, I mean, they do multiple games. Like there are multiple games in the same setting. There's a web game, Fallen London, Sunless Sea, which is on Steam. There's at least 2 others. So yeah, they're doing a whole thing.
Good for them.
Yeah, but there is this kind of 19th century steampunk sort of gothic horror. So what else kind of sets it apart for Rising Tide? Like, is it the real world? Is it a fantasy world?
Is. This to me is probably one of the weaker aspects of the book. Lore wise, it's pretty bog standard. It's, the technologically advanced evil empire in the past got destroyed, and now remnants of their technology are still kicking around, and the empire were all dirty fascies, and the culture that replaced them as a bunch of ANCAPs who are just like super horny to exploit people in the name of free industry. Like it's exactly what you would expect it to be when you hear grim, dark, Victorian inspired aquatic fantasy.
Colonialism. It's a thing.
It sure is. But
is it set on like an alternate Earth, or is it like a totally different geography, or is it kind of left to the GM?
The geography isn't really dove into as far as I could tell. Like a lot of the things they describe are very vague by design, in my opinion. So like you might be from a small island, but there might be a whole bunch of different types of small islands, and you sort of make it up as you go. But like the general rule is no, it is not an alternate Earth. It's just this fantasy world that sort of met this demise.
Well, it could be it sounds like it's vague enough. You could set it in the real.
Oh yeah, you could adapt it however you want. But as far as the book goes, from the best of my reading, it is not the case. It's cool though. Like the setting works really well, and what they include in it, like their justification for what they've replaced magic with is pretty cool. There's a lot of like really neat stuff out in the open ocean that I could talk about. Like, what are you interested in learning about the setting, Ross?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, the geography, who the nations, and obviously, what kind of gamer would I be if I wasn't interested in the ancient evil empire that has been destroyed, with all those ancient artifacts, which I'm sure are malfunctioning, hidden somewhere, and just waiting to be discovered. So
a lot of the ancient, I believe it's like the proper noun is the Island Empire, like capital I, capital E Empire. And I like that they're vague, but I'm from the RPG design school of like, you should have answers if you're designing something. Like you should know what's going on, but this definitely falls into the realm of like, every single thing is vague and mysterious, which I'm not super down to clown on. Well, so we don't really get to see many Empire-specific islands. The main feature of the Empire is a lot of like, they still have these big, powerful, super advanced ships with soldiers that are still sort of roving the ocean, and you get to interact with them. Like they have repeating rifles and things like that, and like power armor and things like that sort of play into it. But there's no like, here's an example island. Even just like an example like structure would be super great, because like even in the explanation of like how long ago did the Empire fall apart, it's very vague beyond a while ago.
Yeah, it sounds like they're kind of like, usually with RPGs, they're either here's the setting or this game is a toolkit for you to create your own setting. And it seems like they're kind of trying to get the halfway point between them. So there's a fair setting-ish, a suggestion of a setting.
They gave you the skeleton, and you're sort of free to fill in the blanks as you need. Like I could adapt this very easily to one of the aquatic, like piratical settings that we play in some of the games over here on the East Coast very easily. Because it would fit in very well to those fantasy worlds. And I don't think I could definitively say that like I think that's a strength, but in the same breath, I don't think that's a weakness either, because one thing that makes my eyes gloss over is reading your very long, very in-depth, very rich tapestry of setting design, because more often than not is pretty boring. This is enough for me, but I can see that it wouldn't be enough for some people.
Yeah, well, it's big detailed settings are a big buy-in, and so like if you hook people with that idea of a setting, people are like, oh yeah, I'll do that. But like if not, it's just like so like it is kind of the conundrum of an RPG. It's like people want a setting, but they don't want to spend forever to learn the setting.
Yeah, exactly. Like and that's why I think this one sticks pretty heavily to the tropes, evil tech. A lot of the magic is replaced by this thing called glow, which I don't like doing direct comparisons, but it's basically Ghost Rock from Deadlands, if you're familiar with that. Where exposure to glow, it has like this strange radioactive signature. Unlike, horrible real world radiation, this is like the fun radiation that can like create power armor. Yeah, exactly. Or like summon big giant clockwork kaiju crabs to scuttle boats. It's pretty cool, but it's the answer to magic, and by studying it, you can like create formulas for certain quote unquote spells, or you can create schematics for like weird science devices.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So it's not, yeah, this, so what is your overall opinion of Tide? To me, it sounds like it's like if you want a nautical adventure in this kind of aesthetic, this is the game for that. But
my overall opinion, because you cut out just a little bit, so I want to make sure I got the right word. My overall opinion is that I really like it. There is a lot of interesting stuff that has been adapted from Torchbearer onto this scale. I would love to run a one-shot for it, and I fully plan to. Like, some of the ship design stuff is really simple, and it's gotten me very excited to do stuff like that. But I do have some issues when it comes to the feasibility of a print version of this book, and things like that. Like, there's a lot of really neat stuff in like the actual adaptation of The Crawl from Torchbearer into The Voyage for Rising Tide. I would 100% recommend getting a PDF, but I looked into seeing if I could get a physical book, and I couldn't find anything that would sort of list physical, which to me might actually be a good thing, because from a graphic design and sort of art direction standpoint, there are definitely some issues with how it is formatted that would make me incredibly hesitant to buy a physical book. Specifically, all of the pages are left aligned, so the page number is always on the bottom right of the page. So even if I printed out a copy of this to like bind myself at like Staples or whatever, a big chunk of the right facing pages, exactly, they don't alternate. It gets sucked right into the gutter.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if they I mean, this is the PDF that they sent us. I don't know if the print version they designed it differently. I
couldn't find even a listing for a print version, but if they do listen to this, please alternate it, because I want to put this on my bookshelf. I really like it.
Well, that's high praise indeed.
I don't give out praise very easily.
All right. Well, thanks, Kyle. What are Best Pal Brigade games up to lately?
So BPB Games we're currently wrapping up Savage Tokusatsu, which y'all were kind enough to help us rep when we ran the Kickstarter last year. We're getting the last bits of art. We've updated it to the new edition of Savage Worlds, which just hopefully finally finished its like primary revisions, which changed almost everything in the kaiju and vehicle section. So we're trying to get Savage Tokusatsu put together. We're looking to have that out March 2019. Currently, I am working on, as is Kat, another member of the group, we are working on the Awakened Kickstarter by Metal Weave Games. It's a book of cute little animal friends who have all, through some way or another, come under the effects of something similar to the Awakened spell, which gives an animal sapience, and they have become sort of adventurers who will join your party. So it's a bunch of cute little like bird alchemists and little cav bards that you can use in your I believe 5th edition game is what I'm doing the primary design for, and Kat is doing some writing on there. The third thing, we're about to start Star Streamers, twitch.tv/Best Pal Brigade, and that is our science fantasy game of social media fame, where we are trying to incorporate chat interaction as a diagenic in-universe part of the game, where the player characters are actually streamers who are broadcasting their exploits, and like viewers from the chat can be summoned into the game. Like, we're accepting character sheets from viewers. They get controlled by me, but the creator sort of gives behaviors and preferred tactics for the characters they create. We've already gotten a couple submissions of that. So if you want to get involved with that, you can check us out on Twitter at BPB Games or on Twitch at twitch.tv/bestpowbrigade. Facebook.com/BPB Games, Patreon.com/BPB Games. We put out a lot of really good stuff. And we've got a lot of really, really cool stuff lined up for 2019 that I'm super excited to announce. But legally, I can't announce some of them yet.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know I'm a fancy big boy.
Well, stay tuned and follow BPP Games on Twitter because I'm sure you'll shout it from there once you can talk about it.
Oh, no doubt. You better believe it. Like, it's gonna blow your mind. I can't believe it's happening. It's that wild.
Ooh, well, I'm curious now. Well, cool. Thanks so much for the review. And when we come back, we'll have shout outs and anecdotes. All right, and we're back. I don't know what music we're going to play, but it'll be something weird. Something
funk?
Maybe.
Of the future variety?
Possibly. Young Bay has a new album coming out, so. All right, so we should talk about shoutouts and anecdotes in no particular order. So first off, I want to mention, of course, give a big shout out to Chris Farmer, friend of the podcast, who gave us a bunch of beer that we reviewed on Mike 6. And he also brought his X-Bone.
Oh my god!
Which is as beautiful, but I am infinitely sad that the plan that we had didn't work out. Yeah. So,
well, there's the better luck next year. But we did get to play. Basically, the plan was he gets the worst games he can find on the Xbox indie store.
Yeah, just a bunch of shovelware that he magically finds every year.
We'll send him cheesy games. The worst we could find.
There's an actual
term. We don't send them. He finds them for us.
Yeah. There's an actual term for this in Japanese called kusoge.
Yeah.
Games that are shoveled out specifically to be shitty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we found
there were some doozies.
We didn't play as much as we didn't get through all of the titles, but that's just more for next time. But we did get probably there's one game in particular that we really loved, and Sean, you're gonna love this game too.
Okay.
No.
It's called Soda Drinker Pro. And what do you think that's about, Sean?
Let me guess. It's a button masher where you're trying to drink faster by mashing buttons.
Wow, that's actually a much better game design than what we saw.
you like mash it at a certain pace, and if you go too fast, you end up like
you choke,
you die,
or you vomit or something,
or or brain freeze.
No, can't stop describing a much better game.
Yeah, that's
that's a game with features.
Yeah. Aaron, please describe Soda Drinker Pro.
Okay, I'm going to describe some of the things in the front because it actually gave us options that, as far as I could tell, had absolutely no bearing on the goddamn game itself. So when you get into it, it just gives you a
first-person view.
Well, I'm talking about the intro screen first.
Yeah.
So it just said Soda Drinker Pro in a very cheap typeset. I think it was just, it may have been like a neon, some sort of neon color. I can't even remember that. And I went into the options. It gave you the options for the soda you drink, including the sugar level, the caffeine, ice that you were using. Chunkiness was part of it. I don't know why.
Was it only the soda, or was it your character? I mean, could you select nipple hue?
It might as well have just been doing that. But the thing is, you don't choose your character, because when you enter the game, you are greeted by this unsettling box that looks like you're trapped. Do you remember the movie Room?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, except imagine everything that kid is imagining is just a horrible MS Paint hellscape of like a high school or a day at the beach or a funeral or a sizzler.
It's not even good MS Paint. It's like bad.
Like really cheap shit. And you don't see your character. All you see is you see this 12-gallon cup of soda that you have two controls for. You press left trigger to bring it up to your mouth, and the other one to drink. And you can move around the stage to collect your soda drinker cups or whatever. What did they say? Oh, wow, another soda. That's what it was.
Is this a Minecraft hack?
No, because you don't do anything. You just collect this, and you can walk around very slowly, but you drink. And we went through like 12 of 100 fucking levels.
Oh no,
of this thing.
See, they finally asked me, Tom, you're not playing. Look up how many levels are in this game. I did. It just says 100 plus.
I feel like the VR version of this game might be better.
No.
No.
Unless you're just sitting here seeing if it will produce the lawnmower man.
Anyway, it's a great game. Game of the year 2018.
No.
So it's on Steam.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
don't do this to these people.
So
this is not what we're here for.
I don't remember the name of it, but there was also another game we played that was about being a little dude on like an ant-sized dude on top of a Bitcoin mining rig, and you had to shoot
Bitcoin runner.
Bitcoin runner. You had to shoot viruses. They were going to hurt the Bitcoin rig, and you had to pick up Bitcoins that just appeared on top of the rig. But if you could get knocked down into the cooling fans and die.
They missed an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Bitcoin rig? No, you call it the blockchain. What? I mean,
blockchain basher.
So that's always been a fun part of our PAX South.
See, I was actually to bring the epilogue to that particular story. I didn't want to play that because I was afraid that it was going to load some malware onto Chris's Xbox that would force it to start running for Bitcoin.
I mean, it may have. We don't know.
We can either confirm nor deny.
If Chris's Xbox One if its Xbone blows up at some point, we'll give the report.
If you lose crypto in the game, you lose crypto in real life.
So nothing of value was lost.
It's the buy Bitcoin man.
God.
Anyway, so we should probably talk about something good. Sean, you found something on Netflix that would appeal to
it was the thing we were kind of looking forward to. Kingdom finally got released on Netflix. It's a South Korean drama series based during the Joseon medieval period, shortly after the Japanese invasions. It looks like. Anyhow, it's a big courtly drama following the adventures of the Crown Prince, who's, I'm not going to spoil much of that, but it gets complicated with, all the intrigue. Oh, and there's zombies. Yes.
Nice.
The funny part is, if you've done a lot with Korean entertainment, especially when they get into like sort of the more esoteric shit, the way they handle the zombie plague is really fascinating and fits a lot with Internal Alchemy.
Yeah.
It is really well done. And you know how like in zombie media, they either info dump the rules right off the bat or they wait till the very end and here's the twist. Well, it gradually over each episode, they reveal something new. And I think that's really fascinating. So it just gradually reveals. It's only 6 episodes so far, but it was already approved for a second season, which is starting production, I think, in February.
Ooh, neat. So yeah, I have that on my list. It looks really cool. Speaking of things that are on streaming series, Tom and I watched a great documentary.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It is Fire Fraud.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. Now there's 2 of these documentaries, but we watched the Hulu one. So
yeah, and Ross just mentioned the Fire Festival I think on the way to PAX South. Just kind of mentioned, hey, did you hear about this festival back in 2017? Like, oh, he told it was a kind of a truncated story. Like, oh yeah, that's a dumb idea doing do a festival like that on an island, no planning. Then I watch it, I'm like, oh my god, there's so much fraud.
yeah,
There's so much fraud.
yeah. The Fire Fraud Festival, the one on Hulu, is actually has the architect of this fraud, Billy McFarland. They interview him,
and he looks like he was totally enjoying the interview.
He
just
is
like just like a 1,000-yard stare.
Cold-blooded sociopathic con artist. And people still liked him. He still had a girlfriend when he went to prison. Spoiler alert, he's in prison right now for 6 years for wire fraud because he stole tens of millions of dollars from people.
Good.
Yeah. Well, he's young,
The thing
so
is,
he's going to get out.
He started another business in prison.
Yeah. Well, no. He actually He while he was out on bail, he started another fraud.
Yeah.
Not a great idea.
To double down on his decisions.
Yeah. Right now, it's not a business that he's doing in prison. He's helping inmates learn how to do music production.
So they can produce fraudulent money laundering schemes later on when they're out.
No, I think
this wasn't money laundering. This was just flat out stealing.
Well, yeah. The firefighter,
Well, I know that was, but I'm talking about what he's doing now.
The thing in prison looks like a legit thing that he is doing to get on the parole board's good side.
Well, I mean, when you're inside, you gotta have a hustle, you know.
But that's like that's kind of the epilogue to the actual documentary. Is fascinating to see how he got to be in a position where he could befriend Ja Rule. And then pay a bunch of social media influencers hundreds of thousands of dollars to promote Fire Festival.
And there's a guy that was the whole time saying, "Don't go to this. I've looked into it. It's a fraud." And people just kept getting money, kept saying, "No, it's a fraud. There's nothing there."
This feels like a crit on your scam check, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is so we had an idea for where. No, the obvious thing to do this in an RPG, do a fiasco.
Naturally.
Well, is a fiasco playset. So.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea of getting a DCC modern set.
Yeah,
and then because I keep hearing about the
Classic,
Fallout. The Fallout for all the people that went.
Yeah, so thousands of people did show up, and they were basically abandoned on this island for a couple of days in FEMA tents, essentially, given like bad food and like little water and porta potties at best. And it didn't turn. It was basically rich young person Lord of the Flies. I mean, nobody died,
and then it was kind of like, okay, like one band dropped out, and then it was sort of rapidly spinning snowball where like no bands I think showed up.
It was totally fraudulent.
So these people are surviving. So it sounds like almost like a funnel adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get like modern set for Dungeon Crawl Classics, and you have your rando people like, hey, I'm a minor YouTube personality. I review songs poorly.
I'm a nano influencer on Instagram.
I tweet constantly.
And also I still love like the people that try to get that flight out.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're first like, okay, we have 115 people on the manifest, and there's 116 on board.
Yeah, we
can't take off until we figure this out.
Yeah.
And then that took hours, and then they finally got that figured out. Like, okay, well, the crew has been on the working for too long, so we have to bring another crew in.
Yeah.
Everyone off the plane.
So in our scenario, a second plane comes, and you have to determine who gets on, and that's going to get ugly as hell. You probably can't even get all your own characters on.
I do like this idea. That's something you could easily write up with the DCC rules. Just create new level 0 character classes, essentially. Nano influence.
And the one character who wins this all, the person who saw this bullshit, turned around and went to Whataburger instead.
My God.
Well, I mean, once you get on the island, there's no Whataburger. Like, I mean,
no, that's when you see the airport. It's like, who rolls enough good sense to say, fuck this?
You're saying the best character is the one who doesn't participate in the adventure.
Exactly.
Are you saying the only way to win the game is not to play?
Exactly.
That's not fun.
But Ross is correct about that. He went on bail, and then like people noticing he's selling tickets for like the Met Gala, which they don't sell tickets to that.
Yeah, you can't get them. Certainly for not $200.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a fascinating documentary. I'm gonna go watch the Netflix one at some point because that's done with different people, so they interview other people who are involved with it and it has a different perspective. So
yeah. Or does that guy like? Did he ask you to go? Did he ask you to go rob customs? Like, I didn't. But.
Yeah. So yeah, worth checking out. Aaron, there was a show you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's another reviewer for online. Her name, that name for that is Pushing Up Roses. She actually was part of the Channel Cinema Collective before that completely dissolved, but was one of the ones who left when the shit hit the fan. But it was I found out it was amazing. She's been running for a while, but I never really saw a lot of what she was doing, which is really in-depth reviews of a lot of the old 80s to 90s adventure games like your King Quest, like 7th Guest, 11th. Oh, sorry, 7th Guest, 11th Hour, Phantasmagoria. I cannot.
Phantasmagoria.
Sorry, thank you. Phantasmagoria.
Phantasmagoria.
So a lot of real, and the fact that she kind of just picks a lot of the interesting aspects of the production for most of these games too, things that you wouldn't even think about, like. I can't remember right now what for at least those, but I'll tell you it's interesting. But something that she's recently been doing is a dive into a lot of the older That's like a media that started out for children's programming, going off from the early Nickelodeon's 90s stuff, which of course is heavily related with my childhood as well. But one of the shows, but she does a lot of in-depth for the episodes and things that will happen in the series, such as her current recent one, which was on the Adventures of Pete and Pete, which is a series I love dearly for just how bizarre it was during the time and not willing to kind of cave into any. It's like anybody trying to meddle with their own internal logic. And also found out something interesting from her is that for the Adventures of Pete and Pete, they had a lot of musical guest stars in just regular roles. Like Michael Stipes was on there as a creepy ice cream vendor. They had Iggy Pop as some kid's dad, and apparently he just kind of wasn't even fully invited. When he just came coming back saying like, "Hey, you want me for other things?" Because he's Iggy Pop. So, no, I really recommend it. It's a lot of fun, astute observations.
Cool.
Also, she made it my favorite because she reviewed the greatest Christmas special of all, which is Muppet Family Christmas. Yes, I am biased.
Yep.
I can't imagine.
That's never come up before.
Anyway, yeah, it's cool. I also want to give another shout out to Nefarious,
Yes.
which
Oh,
is
hell
a
yeah.
video game on Steam and also a webcomic about a supervillain named Crow who is doing super villainous things, kidnapping princesses,
And he's
trying to
the
conquer the world.
protagonist.
Does he do scummy things as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Scummy and villainous.
I would say kidnapping princesses is pretty scummy. Yeah.
that fits the title.
Yeah. He's got minions and blows stuff up. I mean, it's a whole thing. So if you like the Mega Man kind of aesthetic, it's certainly an interesting setting, and check it out. Also a good video game I would like to mention, or at least one that is good so far. One, we did play some games at PAX South. I didn't wait in line for any of the big games because
it just kind of happens.
Well, I'm not waiting in a line. I'm not going to wait in line for an hour to play Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Because,
there's some shit you don't do.
well, yeah. I mean, there are people who do that. A lot of people do. That's why you have to wait an hour to do it because so many people wait. But there was one game we walked around and we just grabbed whatever games were available. We played Totally Reliable Delivery Service. Me, Aaron, and Chris. And basically, it's a Fumblecore game. So if you played Gang Beasts,
it's very similar to that.
It plays like that. Like you have left trigger grabs with your left arm, right trigger grabs with your right arm. You can jump and dive and stuff like that. And you just find packages and try and deliver them. But you can grab onto if you use your controls to grab onto the controls of a vehicle, you can pilot that vehicle.
Or you can just hang off to the side if somebody else is going forward.
Yeah, it has at least local co-op where you can all team up or try and fight each other for who gets the package. It's a lot of fun. So if you like Gang Beasts and that kind of thing, I hope it has online play. That would be great.
That would be a good one. So that was a lot of ridiculous fun.
Tom, you had a game. Do you want to talk about Nilo? Or
Yeah, it's honestly I go to PAX South for like two very specific reasons: classic arcade and the classic console room.
Mm-hmm.
But as I always walk through the main hall, that looks cool. I'm not going to wait 2 hours to play a demo of this though.
Yeah.
But Nilo was like the one game that I actually stopped and had to step back.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it kind of looks like it's kind of sci-fi third person shooter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's. Well, first of all, what grabbed me is you're actually playing like an alien robot, built by aliens, so you look like an alien.
Mm-hmm.
And it also you can switch immediately from like an overhead view map where you're doing stuff to back to third person, and the graphics for like kind of an indie game look really freaking good.
Cool.
So it's something like that, I actually want to know about this game. Like pretty much all the rest are like, oh, I'll jot that down, take a picture, check it out later. This is the one thing I actually stopped and watched for a bit.
Oh yeah, did you actually get to play it?
Oh no. That once again, the wait was hours.
Ah,
and I'm like, yeah, nah.
Pilot Wings calls. Huh?
Didn't play Pilot. I'll go over that later. But okay. I did not play Pilot Wings this year.
Oh, okay. Well,
I had other things I was playing.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Mortal Kombat.
Lots of that, yes.
Yeah. So those are our shout outs. But anyways, actually shout out / anecdote. because Call of Cthulhu.
we did.
Yeah, Chaosium was there. One of their designers, Jared B. I can't remember his last name.
Sorry, you did run a good game, but sorry.
Yeah. No, he did run a game. We did not record it because it was in a super loud.
Oh my god!
Hall.
Particularly like one booth where there's a guy on a microphone just narrating all of the gameplay.
Yeah, there's like a tournament happening.
Yeah,
like,
we were near the PAX arena, so it was pretty loud.
But he was playtesting a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition adventure that he was writing. It was the second part. It was the middle of a trilogy of adventures. So we're like, okay, so he had to spend 10 minutes. All right, here's what your characters have already done. And they were on the boat. And this fucked up shit happened. And then this other fucked up shit happened. And we're like, okay, all right. And then we're trying to, basically, we know somebody we thought died on that boat actually showed up a month later in this small village dead. And we're like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
So we go into the small town, we investigate it, and the anecdote is that it was basically the nicest confrontation with robed, armed cultist I've ever had in a Cthulhu game.
Because usually that only goes one way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Fatagan, here's your knife in your chest. You might be a
Or
deep one.
or Thompson, my Thompson will be my spokesperson.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have any Thompson, so that was good. But we were basically, at this bed and breakfast. You know, we'd been asking the wrong questions all day long.
To the wrong people.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And these rogue dudes break in. They take our innkeeper hostage. You know,
The sweet old lady. Which, we got attached to her like, oh, this will not stand.
Yeah. We draw our weapons. They have theirs. And then they start asking us about stuff. And I'm like, wait. And then we basically, through figuring this shit out, is like, oh, you're a different cult than the cult we're hunting. In fact, you're hunting the same cult that we're hunting. And they're like, oh, okay.
Like, hey, could you... We're talking. Could you let the old lady go? Like, all right, fine.
Yeah. So they let her go, and we
had a civil conversation.
Yeah, it was actually quite nice.
We were all feeling it, too. Just, wow, this is... I've never done this before.
The initial description kind of gave me this mental image of, like, stereotypical Canadians.
They were Irish, actually.
Yeah.
Well, actually, apparently they were like druids.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, but stereotypical Canadian druids would have made this funnier.
It's like,
Yeah, playtest note. Please make them.
Yeah.
All the characters from Letterkenny.
So,
sorry about that. Okay.
But we see we got to stop the old ones there. You know?
So yeah, we then went to this person's house and found a monster, and one of us nearly died. I forgot who.
I don't think it was me. So.
Was the monster polite?
No. It just wanted to kill us.
That would have been funnier.
I think it was one of the other guys who was playing with us who nearly got nailed by that one.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, it was.
Yeah, I kind of squeaked in with a open slot.
Yeah.
It's the picture of like a monster standing over somebody. Well, I'm really sorry I'm going to have to do this, but you're human and you're fucked.
It's like, so I'm
kind of a job description.
It's like, so don't take it personally there, but I'm going to kill you.
It's union rules.
I don't remember the name of the adventure. It's a 1920s adventure. It's a trilogy. It's being written right now, and I think it'll come out later this year.
Yeah.
It's written by Jared B. I know his name.
Yeah.
Starts with
I
B.
think I kind of enjoyed it a little more than when I didn't have all the information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the information was based on like we had done part one. Like, so we just kind of had to catch up to speed.
Yeah.
So like
that's what I liked. Is like,
Yeah.
Okay, there's a whole thing there that I'm only briefly hearing about. But that's
and it wasn't really that hard too. Once we kind of got the general basics of it and
figure out what happened to this dude.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds interesting.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get a copy and we'll run it for RPPR at some point.
Wait, we do that kind of thing?
We do that kind of thing. Yeah. Thanks for checking in, Tom.
I just thought we were running. I thought we were running like a little social media club.
I know, right?
What
I'm an influencer now. I'm trying to get those fat sponsorships with Rebar Festival or
Jesus,
Burn Ward Festival,
the Water Festival,
RPPR, RPPR Fest.
Yeah, exactly.
Water with 2 R's.
That's right. RPPR is going to have a festival on a Caribbean island.
Yeah, sure.
We won't be there.
Someone else is going to do it. I'm just telling you about it.
Yeah,
because they're paying me. Because I'm
because you're a partner.
Where is our cut?
You're pay up, Ross.
Only if you endorse it, Aaron. Yeah. Only if you endorse it.
No, because I'm endorsing RaileryCon.
Yeah. Sean, any particular anecdotes from games you've been playing in lately you want to talk about?
Well, actually, Greg, who's been in the what's it? Unknown Armies campaign. Mm-hmm. He's also in the Grapevine crew. Mm-hmm. There's been a couple of interesting moments there. I'm not going to give the context, but a glitter bomb did happen in red markets. Anyhow, I know if I told the whole story, Caleb's like angry spirit would come through the wall and just start beating the shit out of me. But anyhow,
and I'd be like, Caleb, you're still alive. Why? Is this your stand? And he's like, I hate JoJo. And he'd start beating him.
It'd be great. Anyhow,
I don't understand that reference.
I know it does not totally fit what he wrote the game for, but I'm still snickering at it. So, but that's one tiny thing. But during one of the nights that where somebody couldn't make it, Greg decided to run a game called Laser Kittens.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've heard of it. I've not played it.
Yeah. So the basic premise is your characters are kittens in a universe where all cats have magical laser powers.
Okay.
All the powers.
You can just say Cinnabar. It's fine.
all the powers rhyme with pew, 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 but it's like what you can do. And it's like everything from you can break shit to summon animals to do your bidding, heal things, make everybody completely lose focus of what they're doing because you're so damn cute, whatever. You set up all your skills like, classes your character might have taken. The best part of this, though, I know it's still kind of like, happy, clappy, cutesy most of the way, unless you get a group that plays it a certain way. The most interesting dynamic is there is no set GM.
Ooh.
So every scene, everybody has to bid what they want that scene to be about, and then you play a card face down, and based on the value of the card, positive, negative, high or lower, if you have the high card, you're telling the story. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the scene, you assign experience based off of who you felt got the point of got the lesson. Then next scene, everybody bids again. You can also use this mechanic to like clear out. It's used like playing cards, so you can clear out bad cards by underbidding and like, oh, here's my scene, whatever. Oh, look, I lost. I have to ditch this crap card. But it had some interesting mechanics. I just like the idea of not just every session is a round robin, like within the session, there's multiple round robin GMs. And I thought that was pretty cool. So
that is really cool. Yeah. I definitely want to play that now. So anyways, did you record that?
No, that was not recorded because not everybody there was cool.
Sure.
It,
no, that's fine. That's fine. We'll just have to play it for RPPR at some point.
Oh my God.
I'll bring it up with Greg sometime.
Cool. Yeah. Anyways, I think that wraps up this episode. So, Twitter handles for anybody?
At Aaron Karsten. So, find me. There.
Angrily tweet at him.
So don't
tweet with
angrily tweet me about what?
Tweet with tremendous fervor.
Hashtag big mood.
Okay, I'm at Lustrian Snake.
All right. Yeah, angrily tweet at him too.
I do not twatter.
Yeah. And angrily tweeted me or not, or happily tweeted me. Like just praise me. That's what you should do because I'm an influencer.
Praise you.
Influence this.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.